Station Prime was massive. It hung in space like a metal moon, spinning slowly against a backdrop of distant stars. Thousands of ships moved around it, coming and going from docking ports that covered its surface. Lights blinked in patterns that meant nothing to human eyes. Strange signals filled every communication channel. Captain Tay brought the horizon to a stop 100 kilometers from the station. He stared at the structure through the bridge window and felt a strange mix of wonder and caution. Humanity had built great things, but nothing like this. The station was at least 50 kilometers across. It could hold millions of beings inside its metal walls. "We are being scanned," Lieutenant Nari reported from her station. "Multiple sources. They are looking at everything." "Let them look," Tay said calmly. "We have nothing to hide." A voice came through the communication system. It was cold and mechanical, translated by the ship's computer into Korean. "Human vessel. You are cleared for docking at port 47. Follow the guidance signal. Do not deviate from the assigned path. Any violation will be treated as hostility." Jin, the communication officer, looked at his captain. "Should I respond?" "Yes. Tell them we understand and will comply." The horizon moved forward, following the signal toward the station. As they got closer, they could see more details. The surface of the station was covered in symbols from dozens of different languages. Ships of every shape and size floated nearby. Some were small and fast, built for combat. Others were huge transport vessels, carrying goods from across the galaxy. Commander Hyan stood near the window, watching everything. He had studied pictures of Station Prime, but seeing it in person was different. The scale of it was hard to understand. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, the place where the most powerful beings in the known universe made their decisions, and somewhere inside, those beings were waiting for them. The docking process took 30 minutes. The horizon settled into a port designed for medium-sized vessels. Metal arms reached out and locked onto the ship's hull. A tunnel extended from the station to the main airlock. "We are connected," Nari reported. "Atmosphere is breathable. Gravity is slightly higher than Earth standard." Hyan nodded. He turned to face the delegation team. Dr. Yuna stood beside him, her eyes bright with curiosity. Behind them were 4 security officers, chosen for their skill and calm nature. They wore simple uniforms with no weapons visible, though each of them carried hidden items that could be used if needed. "Remember your training," Hyan said. "Watch everything. Say little. And no matter what they do, do not show fear." The team walked through the airlock and into the tunnel. The walls were smooth and gray, lit by soft blue lights. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that Yuna could not identify. Their footsteps echoed in the empty space. At the end of the tunnel, a door slid open. They stepped through and found themselves in a large hall. The ceiling was high, at least 30 meters above their heads. The floor was made of something that looked like black glass. And standing in the hall were their escorts. There were 6 of them. 4 were Kellans, the warrior species that led the council. They were huge, over 2.5 meters tall, with 4 arms and gray skin covered in natural armor plates. Their eyes were small and red, set deep in faces that showed no emotion. They wore metal bands around their arms that marked them as soldiers. The other 2 were Vorix. They were smaller, about the same size as humans, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. They had no mouths that Hyan could see. He remembered from his reading that they communicated through telepathy and fed through openings in their hands. One of the Kellans stepped forward. His voice was deep and rough. "You are the humans." It was not a question. "We are," Hyan replied. "I am Commander Hyan, leader of this delegation. We have come as requested by the Galactic Council." The Kellans studied him for a long moment. His red eyes moved over Hyan's body, taking in every detail. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. Small, weak, soft bodies. No claws, no armor. The council was right to call you here. You need protection. Hyan did not react. He kept his face calm and his hands at his sides. We appreciate the council's concern, he said smoothly. But we did not come here for protection. The Kellen's eyes narrowed. Behind him, the other Kellen shifted slightly. The tension in the hall increased. You will speak when spoken to, the Kellen said. You will follow our rules. And you will show respect to your betters. Dr. Yuna stepped up beside Hyan. She looked at the Kellen with her gentle eyes and spoke in a soft voice. We mean no disrespect. We are simply new to your ways. Perhaps you could guide us? The Vorks turned their large eyes toward her. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of them tilted its head and made a gesture with its thin fingers. This one, it said, speaking directly into their minds, has an interesting brain. Complex patterns. Many layers. The humans are more developed than we expected. Yuna felt the touch of the telepathic probe and allowed it. She had trained for this. She kept her surface thoughts calm and ordinary while hiding her deeper knowledge behind mental walls that the Vorks could not easily break. The Kellen leader seemed annoyed by this delay. He turned and began walking down the hall. Follow. The council is waiting. Do not waste their time. The delegation followed, with the other escorts surrounding them on all sides. They walked through long corridors filled with beings from dozens of species. Some were tall and thin, with bodies like insects. Others were short and round, covered in fur or scales. All of them stopped to watch the humans pass. Hyan noticed that many of the aliens looked at them with confusion. Some whispered to each other in languages he could not understand. A few showed something that might have been amusement, as if the sight of humans was somehow funny. He understood. To these beings, humanity was new and unknown. They had never seen a human before. They did not know what humans could do. That would change soon. They reached a massive door made of some dark metal. It was carved with symbols that seemed to move and shift when Hyan looked at them directly. The Kellen leader pressed his hand against a panel, and the door began to open. Beyond was the council chamber. It was enormous, larger than any room Hyan had ever seen. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above. The walls were lined with seats, rising up in circles around a central platform. And in those seats sat hundreds of beings, representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Hyan felt Lieutenant Nari tense beside him. He understood. The sight was meant to impress and intimidate. It was meant to make the humans feel small and powerless. But Hyan had faced death before. He had stood on battlefields where the sky burned and the ground shook. He had watched friends die and continued fighting. This room, these aliens, they were impressive. But they were not the scariest thing he had ever seen. The delegation walked to the central platform. The council members watched in silence. Some leaned forward to get a better look. Others sat back with expressions of boredom or contempt. At the highest point of the chamber sat a single figure. He was a Kellen, but larger than the others, with gold bands on all four of his arms. His armor was decorated with symbols of rank. His eyes glowed with intelligence and power. Ambassador Vorn, the High Speaker of the Kellen Empire, the leader of the Galactic Council. He looked down at the humans and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a hunter looking at prey. Welcome, humans, he said. We have been waiting for you. The chamber fell silent. Every eye was on the small group of humans standing in the center of the floor. They looked so fragile, so weak, compared to the mighty beings around them. But they stood straight. They did not bow. They did not look away. And somewhere deep in his ancient mind, Ambassador Vorn felt the first tiny seed of doubt. The message came at midnight, Earth time. It traveled across 300 light-years of empty space, passed through 17 relay stations, and arrived at the communication array orbiting Mars. The signal was strong and clear. It carried words that would change everything. Captain Tay stood on the bridge of the Starship Horizon. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and calm eyes. 20 years in the Earth Defense Fleet had taught him many things. Patience was one of them. He watched the message appear on the main screen and read it slowly. Attention. Species designation. Human. The Galactic Council has reviewed your expansion into Sector 7. Your presence is not welcome. You will send representatives to Station Prime within 30 rotations. Failure to comply will result in immediate action. This is not a request. This is a command. Signed, Ambassador Vorn, High Speaker of the Kellan Empire. The bridge crew sat in silence. Lieutenant Nari, the young weapons officer, looked at her captain with wide eyes. She had joined the fleet only 2 years ago, but she had heard stories about the Galactic Council. Everyone had. Sir, she said quietly, what do we do? Tay did not answer right away. He walked to the large window at the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a group of aliens had decided that humanity was weak. They had decided that a simple message would be enough to make humans afraid. Tay almost smiled. Send this message to Earth Command, he said. Priority 1. The communication officer, a young man named Jin, nodded and began typing. Within minutes, the message was on its way to Earth. Within hours, it would reach Admiral Sue at the headquarters of the Earth Defense Fleet. Admiral Sue was 73 years old. Her hair was white and her face was lined with age, but her mind was sharp as a blade. She had fought in the border wars of 2187. She had commanded the fleet that pushed back the Kellan raiders at the edge of human space. She had seen things that would break most people. When she read the message from the Galactic Council, she laughed. They think this will scare us? She said to her aide, Commander Hyan. They think we will run away because they use strong words? Hyan stood at attention. He was a serious man in his 40s, with a face that rarely showed emotion. But even he could not hide a small smile. It seems they do not know much about humans, Admiral. No, Sue agreed. They do not. And that will be their mistake. She stood up from her desk and walked to the window of her office. Below, the city of New Seoul stretched for hundreds of kilometers. 50 million people lived there, going about their daily lives. They did not know about the message yet. They did not know that somewhere in the galaxy, a council of aliens was planning to intimidate their species. But Admiral Sue knew. And she knew something else too. She knew the history of humanity. She knew what her species had survived. Ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters of every kind. For 200,000 years, humans had faced death and refused to die. They had hunted animals 10 times their size. They had crossed oceans in boats made of wood. They had climbed the highest mountains and walked on the moon. And now, some aliens thought they could frighten humanity with a message? Hyan, she said, prepare a delegation. You will lead it. Hyan bowed his head. Yes, Admiral. Who else will go? Take Lieutenant Nari from the Horizon. She is young, but she is skilled. Take also Dr. Yuna from the Science Division. We may need someone who understands alien biology. And our response to the Council? Admiral Sue turned back to face him. Her eyes were hard now, like stones. Tell them we accept their invitation. Tell them we will come to Station Prime. And tell them... She paused. Tell them we look forward to meeting them. The news spread quickly through the fleet. Humanity had been summoned by the Galactic Council. Some people were afraid. They had heard stories about the Council, about the powerful species that ruled the galaxy. The Kellans were warriors, 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like armor. The Variks were telepaths who could read minds from across a room. The Dren were ancient beings who had traveled the stars, when humans were still living in caves. But fear was not the only reaction. In the training halls of the fleet, soldiers practiced their combat skills with renewed energy. In the research labs, scientists studied everything they knew about alien species. And in the hearts of millions, a quiet fire began to burn. Captain Tay received his orders 3 days after sending the message. He was to transport the delegation to Station Prime. The journey would take 2 weeks at maximum speed. He gathered his crew on the bridge and told them the news. "We are not going there as beggars," he said. "We are not going there as slaves. We are going there as representatives of humanity. Remember who you are. Remember what our species has achieved. And remember that no matter what happens, we do not bow to anyone." Lieutenant Nari felt her heart beating fast. She was nervous, yes, but she was also excited. This was what she had trained for. This was her chance to show the galaxy what humans could do. The Horizon left orbit the next morning. Its engines glowed blue against the darkness of space. Inside, 60 crew members prepared for the journey ahead. They checked weapons. They studied alien languages. They ran simulations of every possible scenario. Commander Hyan spent most of his time reading reports about the Galactic Council. He learned that the Council had existed for 10,000 years. He learned that it controlled over 200 species across the galaxy. And he learned that no species had ever openly defied the Council and survived. But Hyan was not worried. He had seen what humans could do when pushed. He had studied the great wars of Earth's past. He knew that his species had a talent for survival that other races could not understand. Dr. Yuna joined the delegation on the second day. She was a small woman with gentle eyes and a brilliant mind. She had spent her life studying alien life forms. She knew more about Kellan biology than most Kellans did. "They are impressive," she told Hyan one evening. "Strong, fast, and smart. But they have one weakness." "What is that?" Yuna smiled. "They have never met us before." The journey continued. Day by day, the Horizon moved closer to Station Prime. And day by day, the humans on board prepared themselves for what was to come. They did not know exactly what the Galactic Council wanted. They did not know if there would be peace or war. But they knew one thing for certain. They were ready. The delegation was given quarters on the outer ring of Station Prime. The rooms were large and comfortable, designed for species of many different sizes. Windows looked out into space, showing a view of distant stars and passing ships. Commander Hyan stood at one of these windows, watching the lights move in the darkness. Behind him, the rest of the team was resting. They had been on the station for 3 days now, waiting for the Council to make its decision. Lieutenant Nari entered the room. She had recovered completely from her fight with Kron. There had been no injuries to recover from. "Commander," she said, "Dr. Yuna has finished her analysis of the station." Hyan turned from the window. "What did she find?" "The station is old. Much older than we thought. Some sections have been here for over 50,000 years. They have been repaired and expanded many times, but the core is ancient." "Interesting. What else?" "The Council is not as unified as they pretend. The Kellans control most of the military power, but other species resent their dominance. There are factions and rivalries that go back centuries." Hyan nodded slowly. This was useful information. If war came, there might be allies to find among the Council's members. "Any word from Earth?" "Admiral Sue sent a message this morning. She says the fleet is on standby. If we give the signal, they can be here in 2 weeks. Let us hope that will not be necessary." A chime sounded at the door. Nari moved to open it, her hand resting near her hidden weapon. But it was not an attack. It was a Voryx messenger, its pale blue skin glowing softly in the corridor light. "The Council has reached a decision," it said, its voice appearing directly in their minds. "Your presence is requested in the Chamber of Agreements." Hyan gathered his team. They walked through the station's corridors, past hundreds of alien species going about their business. Many stopped to watch the humans pass. Word of Nari's victory had spread quickly. The small predators from the Death World were famous now. The Chamber of Agreements was different from the main council room. It was smaller, more intimate. The walls were covered in carved panels showing scenes from the history of the galaxy. A long table stood in the center, with seats for all parties. Ambassador Vorn was already there, along with representatives from a dozen major species. The Kellans sat on one side, their gray faces showing nothing. The Voryx floated nearby, their large eyes watching everything. Other species filled the remaining seats. Hyan and his team took their places at the table. He sat in the center, with Nari on his right and Yuna on his left. "Thank you for coming," Vorn said. His voice was different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something more careful. "The Council has debated for 3 days. We have discussed your species at length. And what have you decided?" Hyan asked. Vorn looked around the table. The other representatives nodded to him, giving their permission to speak. "We have decided that war with humanity would be unwise." A small wave of tension left Hyan's shoulders, but he kept his face neutral. This was not over yet. "We thank the Council for its wisdom," he said carefully. "What are your terms?" Vorn gestured, and the Voryx floated forward. It projected images into the air above the table. Star maps, tree documents, trade agreements. "We propose a partnership," Vorn said. "Not the submission we originally demanded. A true partnership between equals." He pointed to the star maps. "Your species will keep the planets you have claimed in Sector 7. In return, you will agree to respect the boundaries of other council members. No expansion into occupied territory without negotiation." Hyan nodded. "Acceptable. Trade routes will be established between Earth and major council worlds. Your goods and technologies will have access to galactic markets. In return, you will share certain scientific knowledge with the Council." "What kind of knowledge?" One of the other representatives spoke. It was a Dren, an ancient being with wrinkled skin and wise old eyes. "We are curious about your medicine," the Dren said. Its voice was soft and musical. "Your ability to survive injuries that would kill other species. Your techniques for repairing damaged bodies. We would like to learn." Dr. Yuna leaned forward. "That can be arranged. In exchange, we would like access to your medical databases. There are diseases on Earth that have defeated our best efforts. Perhaps galactic knowledge could help." The Dren smiled, an expression that looked strange on its alien face. "A fair trade. Knowledge for knowledge." Vorn continued with the proposal. There would be cultural exchanges. Students from Earth could study at council academies. Alien scholars could visit human worlds. Art and music and literature would flow between civilizations. There would also be military agreements. Not an alliance, not yet, but cooperation against common threats. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and there were enemies that threatened everyone. Hyan listened to each point carefully. He asked questions. He suggested modifications. He negotiated terms that would benefit humanity while remaining fair to the Council. After 2 hours, they had a draft agreement. It was not perfect, but it was a beginning. "There is one more thing," Vorn said. He looked uncomfortable, which was strange for a Kellan. "The Council wishes to apologize." Hyan raised an eyebrow. "Apologize? We underestimated your species." We assumed that because you were new and small, you were weak. We threatened you with words that were not appropriate between equals." Vorn took a deep breath. This was wrong. The chamber was silent. Apologies from Kellens were rare. Some said they were impossible. "We accept your apology," Hyan said graciously. "We also apologize for any offense our directness may have caused. We are still learning the customs of galactic civilization." Vorn almost smiled. Almost. "You learn quickly, Commander. Perhaps too quickly." They signed the agreement that day. It was the first treaty between humanity and the Galactic Council. It would not be the last dot in the weeks that followed. News of the treaty spread across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humans began to ask questions. Who were these strange beings from the Death World? How had they faced down the mighty Kellens? What made them so confident? On Earth, celebrations filled the streets. Humanity had taken its place among the stars. They were no longer alone in the universe. Admiral Sue watched the celebrations from her office window. She felt old and tired, but also satisfied. They had done it. They had bluffed their way into galactic society and come out as equals. Captain Tay returned to his ship and resumed his patrol of human space. But now, when he met alien vessels, they treated him with respect. Some even seemed afraid. Dr. Yuna began her work with the Dren medical teams. Within months, she had developed new treatments for diseases that had killed millions. She became famous in the galaxy as the human healer. Lieutenant Nari was promoted to captain. She trained a new generation of soldiers in the techniques that had defeated Kron. Her name became a legend, spoken with respect by warriors of every species, and Commander Hyan returned to Earth, his mission complete. He wrote a detailed report about everything he had learned on Station Prime. He described the strengths and weaknesses of each council species. He outlined strategies for expanding human influence. He planned for the future, because this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven itself worthy of respect. Now they had to prove that they could be trusted, that they could be partners, that they could contribute to the galactic community. It would not be easy. There would be challenges and conflicts. Old enemies would test them. New threats would arise. But humanity was ready. They had been preparing for this moment for 200,000 years. Some species had evolved to be big. Others had evolved to be fast. Others had developed natural armor or deadly venom. Humans had evolved to never give up. And that, in the end, was what made them the apex predators of the galaxy. In the Great Council Chamber, a new seat was added to the circle. It was sized for human bodies, crafted from metal and wood brought from Earth. Above it hung a symbol, a blue circle with green and brown markings. A planet that looked fragile and small, but everyone who saw it now knew the truth. That small planet had produced the most dangerous species in known space, not because of their size or strength or natural weapons, but because of their minds, their will, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, welcoming humanity home. The council chamber transformed. The seats around the central platform retracted into the floor, creating a wide circular arena. Lights adjusted to illuminate the fighting space. Council members crowded against the barriers that rose to separate them from the combat area. Ambassador Vorn returned to his high seat, looking down with confidence. He had chosen his best warrior for this fight. Kron was a veteran of 50 battles. He had killed members of 12 different species with his bare hands. He had never been defeated. Kron stepped into the arena. He was huge, even for a Kellen. His gray skin was covered in scars from past victories. His forearms flexed, showing muscles like steel cables. He wore no armor for this fight, only a simple cloth around his waist. He did not need protection against such a small opponent. On the other side of the arena, Lieutenant Nari removed her outer jacket. She wore a simple black shirt and pants underneath. She stretched her arms and legs slowly, warming up her muscles. Her movements were calm and precise. "This is a mistake," one of the Kellen guards said to Hyun. "The female will die. Kron does not know how to hold back. Then it is good that he will not need to," Hyun replied. The guard looked at him with confusion but said nothing more. A Vorax moved to the center of the arena. Its telepathic voice filled everyone's minds. "The rules are simple. No weapons. No killing strikes unless both parties agree. The fight ends when one fighter cannot continue or surrenders. Do both fighters understand?" Kron made a deep sound in his throat. "I understand. Let us finish this quickly." Nari bowed slightly. "I understand." The Vorax floated back to safety. The arena fell silent. "Begin." Kron did not hesitate. He charged forward with incredible speed, all forearms reaching for his prey. His fingers were like claws, strong enough to crush metal. His mouth opened in a battle roar that shook the air. Nari did not move. She watched him come, her eyes tracking every motion. At the last possible moment, she stepped aside. It was a small movement, barely noticeable, but it was enough. Kron's hands grabbed nothing but air. His momentum carried him past her. He spun around, confused and angry. The council members murmured to each other. A few laughed at the miss. Kron attacked again, more carefully this time. He used two arms to grab while the other two struck downward. It was a classic Kellen technique, used to trap prey and finish them quickly. Nari moved again. She dropped low, sliding under his grabbing arms. As she passed, her hand shot out and struck the back of his knee. It was a light touch, almost gentle. But Kron's leg buckled for just a moment. He stumbled. He recovered quickly, but the damage was done. Everyone had seen it. "She touched him," Dr. Yuna said quietly to Hyun. "The nerve cluster behind the knee. It will hurt for a few minutes." "I know," Hyun said. "I taught her that technique." Kron was angry now. He had never been touched in combat by such a weak opponent. He abandoned his careful approach and attacked with full fury. His forearms became a blur of motion, striking from every direction. But Nari was not there. She moved like water, flowing around his attacks. She stepped left, then right, then back. Every strike missed by just a small distance. She never blocked, never stopped moving. To the council members watching, it looked like magic. The tiny human seemed to know where Kron would attack before he did. She was always just out of reach, always just one step ahead. But to Nari, it was simply training. She had studied combat since she was 6 years old. She had learned to read body language, to see the tiny movements that show where an attack would go. Every species telegraphed their strikes in some way. You just had to know what to look for. Kron's shoulders dropped slightly before each swing. His eyes focused on his target a moment before he moved. His weight shifted in predictable patterns. To Nari, he was an open book. After 2 minutes of constant attack, Kron was breathing hard. His species was built for short, powerful bursts of violence. They were not designed for long fights. Their muscles needed rest between efforts. Nari was not even sweating. "What is wrong with you?" Kron shouted. "Stand still and fight." "I am fighting," Nari said calmly. "You just cannot see it." She stopped retreating. For the first time, she moved forward. Kron raised all 4 arms to defend himself, surprised by the change. But Nari did not attack his body. Instead, she attacked his balance. Her foot swept across the floor, hitting his ankle. At the same moment, her shoulder drove into his hip. It was not a powerful strike, but it did not need to be. She was redirecting his own weight against him. Kron fell. The massive Kellen warrior crashed to the ground, shaking the floor with his impact. Before he could recover, Nari was on him. Her knee pressed against his throat. Her hands held two of his arms in locks that would break them if he moved wrong. The arena was completely silent. "Do you yield?" Nari asked quietly. Kron struggled, but every movement caused pain. The human had somehow found all the weak points in his body. Her knee pressed on the nerve cluster in his neck. Her hands bent his arms at angles that threatened to tear muscles. "Impossible," he whispered. "You are too small. Too weak. Size is not strength," Nari said. "Strength is knowing where to push." She pressed a little harder. Kron made a sound of pain. "Do you yield?" She asked again. Kron looked up at the council seats. He saw Vorn staring down with shock in his eyes. He saw the other Kellans looking away in shame. He saw the entire galaxy watching him lie helpless under a creature half his size. "I yield," he said. I released him and stood up. She bowed politely to her fallen opponent, then turned and walked back to her delegation. She did not celebrate. She did not show any emotion at all. Commander Hyan nodded to her. "Well done, Lieutenant." "Thank you, Commander." The council members erupted in noise. Some were shouting in anger. Others were asking questions. A few were simply staring at the humans with new expressions on their faces. Ambassador Vorn raised his hands for silence. It took longer than usual. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke. An impressive display. His voice was controlled, but Hyan could hear the anger underneath. "But one fight proves nothing. Perhaps your female was simply lucky." "Perhaps," Hyan agreed. "Or perhaps she was simply trained by humans." He looked around the chamber. "We do not want to fight you. We did not come here to make enemies. But we will not be treated as lesser beings. We will not submit. We will not bow." He took a step forward. "If the Council wishes peace, we offer peace. Equal terms. Mutual respect. Fair trade. We have much to offer the galaxy. Our scientists are creative. Our engineers are skilled. Our artists make beautiful things. Another step. But if the Council chooses war, we will give you war. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. We are patient. We are persistent. We will learn your weaknesses, find your vulnerabilities, and strike when you least expect it. That is what we do. That is what we have always done." He stopped and looked directly at Vorn. "We hunted the great predators of our world to extinction. We eliminated species that had lived for millions of years. We did this with stone tools and wooden spears. Imagine what we could do with starships and atomic weapons." Vorn sat very still. Around him, the council members whispered to each other. The Vorks were silent, their large eyes fixed on the humans. The other species watched and waited. "You speak of war very easily," Vorn said finally. "But words are cheap." "Yes," Hyan agreed. "They are. Which is why I suggest we move past words. Let us talk about real things. Trade agreements. Border treaties. Cultural exchanges. Let us build something positive instead of threatening each other." He smiled, and this time it was a genuine smile. "We are a young species, Ambassador. We have much to learn about the galaxy, but we also have much to teach. Give us a chance. You might be surprised." Vorn looked at him for a long moment. The human was clever. He had shown strength and then offered friendship. He had demonstrated that humanity was dangerous and then presented a path to peace. It was exactly what Vorn would have done in his position. "The Council will discuss your proposal," he said. "You will be given quarters on the station while we deliberate." Hyan bowed his head slightly. "We are grateful for your consideration, Ambassador. Vorn watched the humans leave the chamber. The female who had defeated Kron walked among them, looking no different from when she arrived. No signs of exhaustion. No signs of pride. Just calm confidence. What manner of species was this? Ambassador Vorn let the silence stretch out. He was an expert at this game. He had broken hundreds of species with nothing more than patience and intimidation. The longer the silence lasted, the more nervous the new species became. Soon, they would start to speak too quickly, to make promises, to beg for mercy. But the humans did not speak. They stood on the central platform and waited. Their faces showed nothing. Their bodies were relaxed but alert. They did not fidget or look around nervously like most new species did. Vorn felt a flash of annoyance. He pushed it aside and spoke again. You have entered council space without permission. You have claimed planets that do not belong to you. You have shown no respect for the laws that govern this galaxy. He paused. These are serious crimes. Commander Hyan stepped forward. He moved smoothly, without hurry. With respect, Ambassador, we were not aware of any laws. No one contacted us. No one told us where we could or could not go. We explored the stars, as any species would. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some of the council members seemed surprised that the human had spoken so directly. Others looked offended. Vorn raised one of his four hands, and the room fell silent again. Ignorance is not an excuse, he said. The laws exist whether you know them or not. Every civilized species understands this. Then perhaps, Hyan said calmly, you should share these laws with us now. We are willing to learn. Vorn smiled again. It was a cold smile. Learning will not be enough. Your species has already done damage. You have taken resources that belong to others. You have frightened established trade routes. You have caused problems that must be fixed. What do you suggest? Vorn stood up from his seat. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, and his gold armor caught the light as he moved. He walked down the steps toward the platform, each footstep echoing in the chamber. There are 2 paths before you, he said. The first is submission. You accept your place as a junior species under council protection. You give up your claim to the planets you have taken. You pay tribute to the Empire for the trouble you have caused. In return, you are allowed to exist. He stopped at the edge of the platform, looking down at Hyan. The second path is resistance. You refuse our generous offer. And then, he showed his teeth. They were sharp and yellow. Then, we show you what happens to species that challenge the council. Hyan did not back away. He stood his ground and met Vorn's eyes. And if we choose neither path? The chamber erupted in noise. Shouts of anger and disbelief came from all directions. Some council members stood up, waving their arms or tentacles or other limbs. The Kellans in the room moved their hands toward weapons. Vorn raised his arms, and slowly the noise died down. He looked at Hyan with new interest. You are either very brave or very foolish, he said. Perhaps both. Neither, Hyan replied. I am simply human. He turned to face the chamber, looking at the hundreds of beings watching him. You have brought us here to frighten us. You have shown us your power, your numbers, your great station. You think we will see these things and become afraid. He paused. But you do not know what we are. Dr. Yuna stepped forward now. She carried a small device in her hand, a projector that could display images in the air. May I? She asked. Vorn waved a hand in permission. Curious despite himself, Yuna activated the device. A holographic image appeared above the platform, visible to everyone in the chamber. It showed a blue planet covered in clouds. This is Earth, she said. Our home world. It is a small planet in a quiet part of the galaxy, but it is not a gentle place. The image changed. It showed massive storms destroying cities, earthquakes breaking the ground apart, volcanoes filling the sky with fire and ash. Our planet tries to kill us regularly. We have survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We have survived diseases that killed half our population. We have survived impacts from space that wiped out other species. The council members watched in silence. Some of them looked confused. What was the point of this? The image changed again. It showed early humans, small figures on a great plain. When we first appeared, we were not the strongest creatures on our world. There were animals much larger than us, faster than us, with bigger teeth and sharper claws. An image of a great cat appeared, its mouth open in a roar. This creature hunted us. It killed many of our ancestors. But we did not give up. We learned. We adapted. We made weapons. The image showed humans with spears surrounding the cat. We hunted the hunters. We killed the killers. Within a few thousand years, we had driven most of the great predators to extinction. Yuna looked around the chamber. You see, we did not evolve to be prey. We evolved to be the most dangerous creatures on our planet. We are persistence hunters. We do not need to be fast because we never stop. We can chase an animal for days until it collapses from exhaustion. We can survive injuries that would kill other species. We can eat almost anything. We can live in any environment. The image showed humans in every part of Earth, in deserts, in frozen lands, in jungles, on mountains, underwater in metal ships. There is no place on our world where we cannot survive, Yuna continued. And now there is no place in the galaxy where we cannot go. Vorn had been listening with growing unease. He had expected the humans to be frightened. He had expected them to beg for mercy or try to negotiate. He had not expected this quiet confidence. Pretty words, he said. But words do not win battles. You are still small. You are still weak. You have no natural weapons. Hyan smiled. It was a strange smile, one that did not reach his eyes. No natural weapons? He held up his hands. These hands have built machines that can destroy planets. These hands have created weapons that can split atoms apart. These hands have made diseases that can kill in hours and cures that can save millions. He lowered his hands. You look at us and see soft skin and small bodies. But you do not see what matters. You do not see our minds. You do not see our will. You do not see the fire that burns inside every human heart. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the Kellans had stopped moving. You ask us to submit, Hyan said. You threaten us with war. But I wonder, Ambassador Vorn, if you truly understand what that would mean. Vorn felt something cold in his chest. He had faced many species in his long life. He had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. But he had never felt anything quite like this. The human was not threatening. He was not angry. He was simply stating facts, as calmly as if he were discussing the weather. Let me tell you about our wars, Hyan continued. We have fought each other for our entire existence. We have developed weapons and tactics that would horrify you. We have killed billions of our own kind. The image above the platform showed scenes of human warfare. Ancient battles with swords and arrows. Modern conflicts with tanks and aircraft. Nuclear explosions that turned cities to ash. We are very, very good at war, Hyan said. It is perhaps our greatest skill. We do not want to fight you. We came here hoping for peace. But if you force us to fight, he let the words hang in the air. One of the Vorks suddenly spoke into everyone's minds. He is not lying. I can feel his thoughts. He believes every word. And there is something else. The Vorks paused, its large eyes wide. He has done terrible things. things that would break other minds. And he's not even their warrior. He is their diplomat. The council members looked at each other with new expressions. The contempt was gone. The amusement was gone. Something else was taking its place. Fear, VORN, forced himself to stand tall. He would not show weakness in front of the council. Enough, he said. Your words are interesting, but they prove nothing. Any species can tell stories about their past. Hyan nodded slowly. You are right, Ambassador. Words are not enough. Perhaps you need a demonstration. He turned to Lieutenant Nari, who had been standing silently behind him. Lieutenant, are you ready? Nari stepped forward. She was small, even by human standards. Her face was young and calm. She looked like no threat at all. I am ready, Commander. Hyan looked back at Vaughn. Your Kellen warriors are famous across the galaxy. The best fighters, the strongest soldiers. I propose a simple test. One of your warriors against one of ours. No weapons. Just skill against skill. Vaughn laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. You want to fight us? With that small female? Yes, Hyan said simply. Vaughn looked at Nari, then back at Hyan. This was obviously a trick of some kind. But he could not refuse. The entire council was watching. Very well, he said. I accept your challenge. And when your warrior lies broken on the floor, you will accept that you are the lesser species. Hyan smiled that strange smile again. We shall see, Ambassador. We shall see.